Hello, hello, yogis, and welcome to our Saturday fusion class. So in today's class, we are going to look at the eight-limbed yogic path, just like we have been looking at the eight-limbed yogic path all week in our yoga practice. But today we're going to pull all of the eight limbs together and look at them consecutively rather than one limb per class or two limbs per class. And then I'm also going to share how exactly I tie each of the limbs into every yoga class. So I'm actually going to use the Yogi Institute 200 manual as a reference guide. So this is the manual that we use in the Yoga 200 program, online or live. And it is so full of amazing information. But the philosophy aspect is actually in the third module. So that's actually the last module of the training program because I feel like first we want to get the physical aspect of the self in place, which we'll talk about through our philosophy. And then we get the energetic aspect of ourselves, gain that understanding. And then we look at the philosophy. To me, that's kind of like the natural progression because the physical will lead us to the energetic, and the energetic and physical together will lead us into the philosophical. So that's kind of why it's created in that way. So in every Yogi Institute manual, no matter what course you're taking, the 300, you're taking a module, or you're taking the 200, this page is included. And this is the eight-limbed yogic path. So it's interesting to me that it's called a path because it's not that it's step by step and that those steps are always consecutive. This is not linear. It's not that one thing leads to the next, leads to the next. It's more like a tree with branches, and all of these different pieces exist simultaneously together in the same moment. So it's not like you get to one level, you get to the next level, you get to the next level. And that's why it's interesting that it is numbered. In most of the text that you'll read, it is a numbered path, but it isn't that it is traveled in that numeric way. It is you can practice one thing at the same time simultaneously, and it's never ending. And often when we think of a path, we think of it as being or having a destination, and it isn't that. And even Patanjali, so he was the creator, and this came from 5,000 years ago, where he started to gain this understanding of yoga and develop the philosophy and create this structure or this framework. And so it's really interesting to read the original text or the translations of the original text and then apply them to modern day, because that even in itself, I mean, everything is up for interpretation. So we can look at these philosophies and these concepts through our own lens, through our own religion, through our own personal philosophy, through our own understanding, through our own depth, through our own experience. And we can take different interpretations of these different limbs. And so I feel that it's really important to acknowledge philosophy is not religion. To just say that philosophy is a concept or an idea, and religion is a structured belief system. To me, those are kind of the two things. So philosophy and religion can coexist. And so these ideas can be applied to any faith. You can have any faith and be open to the philosophy of this, to these concepts. And it's not that Patanjali was a religious leader. He was a teacher. So there's a difference there too. Just like you would go to a university program and you would take a university class from a professor, you can look at Patanjali as a professor. You can look at him as a teacher. So you don't have to, and that's kind of how I look at philosophy. Um, People who are philosophers, to me, I see them as teachers, and I see it very separate from any kind of religious idea or faith-based system. So as we look at these 8 limbs, we are going to gain a deeper understanding of what the true foundation of yoga is from a philosophy standpoint. So the first one that we look at is the yamas. And we looked at the yamas in Friday's yin class. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper, you can go to that class, take Friday's class. I highly recommend it. But the yamas are, they're the principles. They teach us how to treat others and the world around us. So the yamas are really our connection to the outside world. Our connection to the outside world. So then we also have the niyamas, which we'll look at next, and those are our connection to our inside world. So these are like moral ideas, moral disciplines. They're guidelines to help us to live as happy, healthy humans. So this isn't like a strict dogma or something that needs to be forced upon. This is a guideline that if it feels good to you to implement this into your life, implement this into your life. So the first one is ahimsa, which is non-harming. Now, this has come under scrutiny for me personally, because if I have the choice to catch a wasp in my house and put it outside, or a spider or a snake, I will do that. I will make that choice to not harm. But if there's an infestation of ants in my house and it is affecting my ability to have my food be clean and not eaten by ants, you know, then yes, these things need to be taken care of. And I don't know if you've ever had those tiny little sugar ants, but it's very difficult to pick them all up and put them outside. So yes, I have killed ants that have infested my house before. But if I have the choice and I can safely put something outside, if I can, if it is not, and this might sound controversial, but if it's not harming my life, I will do whatever I can to not harm whatever it is. Now, we can apply this to each other, and having the awareness that our words can harm others. Yes, our actions can harm others, and not just physical harm, emotional harm, mental harm. Making the commitment to myself to have compassion and live with compassion and consideration for others. Making choices that I know don't directly harm someone else. Doing no harm. As a yoga teacher, I want to provide information that does not harm people. I want to provide classes that are safe. I want to teach in a way where people feel safe and stable and secure in their bodies. That is so important to me as a teacher. I do not want to do harm. When it comes to a student coming to me and asking me questions about an ailment, an injury, a disease, if I don't know the answers, I will say, I don't know, let me look into that, because I don't want to do harm. I don't want to tell someone something that is incorrect. These are ways that as a yoga teacher, like very applicable ways that I want to follow this guideline as do no harm. Now, maybe there are aspects of that in your profession. Of course, in our personal relationships, making that commitment. And it doesn't mean that you're walking on eggshells all the time. It just means that you take into consideration the person that you're with, your family members. And yes, you can still make choices and do things for you that don't harm others, but it's like that direct harm, not causing that direct harm. Making that commitment, do no harm. That is how I see this, and I remind myself through my words, through my actions, through my belief system, you know, all of the things, through my teaching. Satya is truthfulness. Now, not only sharing the truth about my, like, what has happened to me in my life, what I see, what I observe, but also being bold and courageous enough to share my truth in moments of fear. It is said that fear is courage being realized. Fear is courage being realized. And so in those moments where I'm afraid to express my truth, to share my truth with others, with the world around me, that I cultivate that courage to speak my truth. If there's something that I'm observing that I feel is wrong, that I speak my truth, that I share my truth. If there is something if I'm sharing a story or experience that I'm sharing from a place of truth, that my intentions are always coming from a truthful, pure, honest place. When we live in truth, we live in alignment with our most authentic self. When we live in truth, we live in alignment with our most authentic self. That is who I strive to be, my most authentic self, my most radiant, bold version of who I'm here to be. And that doesn't mean that I squash others or that I don't, you know, I believe that we lift each other up. All of us together, we rise. So truthfulness is another one of the yamas, or our relationship to the world around us and within us. We want to be aligned with our own truth as well. Then we have asteya, non-stealing. And I see this in many different ways. Yes, there is the obvious way of not stealing an actual item from a store, from a person, of course. But then there's also not stealing someone's joy, someone's happiness by saying something that diminishes whatever it is in, like, that is bringing them joy. I'll share a personal example. I came home from a trip once and I was so excited to get into philanthropy work and start to really get more involved in the world community. And someone said to me, "That's stupid. We have problems here at home that need to be taken care of." Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't problems to be taken care of here at home. But in that moment, I was so excited and joyous to get involved in the global community that that statement, "that is stupid, there is so much to be done here at home," that stole my joy, that stole my excitement. So even that person could have phrased that in a different way that wasn't stealing. To tell someone that something that they're excited about is stupid is stealing their joy. It is stealing their happiness, their excitement, their energy. So stealing energy, stealing time, taking up too much of someone's time. I am so aware of my class times. I know that it's hard for people to budget any amount of time for them to make it to their mat, whether it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. And I am not going to steal someone's time by taking up more than what has been budgeted. I see that as a form of stealing, and I am committed to not do that. A minute or two is one thing, but anything more than that, I see that as stealing of time. So stealing of energy, stealing of emotion, stealing of time, yes, stealing of physical things. So just committing to not steal, committing to that integrity. Then we have brahmacharya, which is abstinence. And traditionally, yes, it would mean yogis were abstinent from sexual activity. Abstinence from sexual activity. Now, when you start to read about sexual energy and how we can harness sexual energy in order to manifest our dreams and our desires, and when you start to research the power that there is in sexual energy, I understand this abstinence, but I also shift it to modern day society. And I look at it as abstinence from anything that allows me to not live my Dharma. And our Dharma is our purpose. So for me, teaching the practice of yoga, teaching yogic philosophy, training sessions, living as a yogi is a part of my Dharma, is a part of my purpose. It's a part of my passion. I don't know if you've noticed. And so anything that stops me from living that, I want to abstain from. So for me, that is staying up late when I have to teach the next morning. That is alcohol. That is drugs. That is, for me personally, that is meat. Anything that is making sure, so it's abstinence from dehydration, making sure that I'm always hydrated, that I'm always replenishing what I need. So it is abstinence from anything that is not congruent with who you are and who you want to be, with your path, with your purpose, with your Dharma. So that's how I see abstinence or brahmacharya, not necessarily sexual abstinence. Yes, I think that sexual energy, having an understanding of sexual energy is very important. I believe that within a relationship, that connection that two people form is like no other connection that you can create. So it's not that I'm a supporter and I'm saying that to abstain from sexual activity, but be aware, know what you're doing and the value that there is in that sexual energy, and then abstain from anything that misaligns you from or takes you off your path or takes you away from your purpose or makes you feel less of who you want to feel like, less of your vibrant version of yourself. Then we have aprigaraha, which is non-hoarding. So this is not hoarding, things. Yes, you can living in a non-cluttered space, but it's also knowing to me, I interpret this as living from abundance, knowing that there is enough for all. So whether you apply that to your work, whether you apply that to your family, just knowing that there is abundance for all. So those are the yamas. The niyamas, this is taking much longer than I expected. So the niyamas, I'll try and move a little bit faster. So those are the connection to the self. That's the inner work. So first we have cleanliness. So yes, it is cleanliness of the body. It's also cleanliness of the mind. It's also cleanliness of the heart, the emotions, the digestive system, cleanliness of your being. So it's more than just, the clothes you wear. You want to be clean in what you're exposing yourself to, what the pictures, the videos, what you read, the books, the relationships. If there are toxic relationships in your life, you want to clear out those relationships. Next, we have santosha, which is contentment. Here, it's different than happiness. To me, happiness is something that is fleeting, that it's an emotion that comes and goes. Whereas contentment is being happy in every moment, happiness with what you have and happiness with what you don't. Happiness with where you are, but happiness also with where you're going. To me, contentment is this deeper layer that is just always there, that is not affected by external circumstance. So this is non-circumstantial happiness, just like unconditional love. This is unconditional happiness. That's how I interpret contentment. Then we have tapas, which is heat, transformation, or burning of desire. So this is that internal passion, that internal fire that we can stoke by doing the things that light us up, that set us on fire. For me, sharing this information, it lights me up, it sets me on fire. I love the practice of yoga. It sets me on fire. I love offering training programs, sharing information. I love empowering others, lifting them up, supporting them in living their dream, in accomplishing whatever it is they want to accomplish. That is my burning fire. What is your burning fire? That is our tapas. We have sadhaya, self-knowledge, self-reflection, self-awareness. Where I see this most nowadays is if we are triggered, if we go into an automatic reaction to a certain situation, that we take time and we step back and we reflect and we look inside and we ask ourselves, why was this so triggering to me? What within me is asking for my attention here? What can I learn from this trigger? That is self-awareness. That is self-knowledge. On my mat, how I do that is from physical sensation and becoming aware of any story that's connected to the physical sensations that I feel. So rather than have criticism or judgment because of tight hamstrings or a weak core or weak arms, or maybe I experience some kind of pain, I come from a place of non-judgment and curiosity. So to me, that is how I gain more self-knowledge. That's how I gain more self-awareness. And then we have Ishvara Pratyhara, full surrender to the divine. So how I see this is I completely trust in my path, and I completely trust that my path is divinely guided. So I surrender. And even if there's something that I don't understand, some sort of pain, some sort of disconnect, I surrender that it is a part of my path and a part of my growth and a part of my soul's, my spiritual evolution. That is my surrender to the divine. So there are the Niyamas. We're going to move faster through the next limbs. So we have asana, which to me is the most, it's the easiest to understand because it is the physical postures. Now, what I feel is important to understand here is that traditionally the postures were very simple, and they were postures that could be held for long periods of time because they were meant to be used as meditation. As India came in and started, or sorry, as England came in and started to influence India during their occupation, the English influence started to influence the practice of yoga through gymnastics and wrestling, and that's how a lot of the modern yogic postures were created. So it's a combination of influences from East and West, which I find so interesting too. But the original postures and concepts and philosophy date back 5,000 years ago. So this is not a new practice, even though it's newer to the West. It was coming around in about the 1970s. So yoga's only been in the West for about 50 years. And that has led us to do research and back it with science and gain a deeper understanding. That is more of the physical aspect. We have influenced the physical aspect of this practice. Pranayama is breathing techniques, and I also look at this as breathing techniques, breath control, and breath awareness. Now, these three things, yes, they are one called pranayama, and I see them as the greatest gifts that yoga has to offer us. In our vinyasa practice, we move breath to movement. And so we have that breath awareness. There are different breath practices that can be incorporated into every class. so that we have that breath awareness. Now we practice that on our mats so that we can live it off of our mats, so that we can have that breath awareness. I say this all the time. When we are connected to the breath, we are connected to the present moment. When we are connected to the present moment, we are not worried or have anxiety about the future or depression about the past. We are in the here and now. And this is how breath control, awareness, and breathing techniques can cure, ooh, that's a strong word, can support people experiencing anxiety and depression, because the breath can bring us into the present moment, anchor us into the present moment. So pranayama. Then we have pratyhara, which is our sense withdraw, which also means drawing inward. So it doesn't mean that we're plugging our nose and ears and our mouth and closing our eyes. It means that we are drawing our awareness inside of ourselves. So all day long, we are exposed to external influences. The external world is always influencing us. We are taking in the external information from our senses, our eyes, our ears. We're hearing advertisements, we're being influenced. This is a time to turn inward. Pratyahara means turn inward. And what I love about the practice of yoga is that through our practice, sensation draws us into the body. Sensation draws us into the mind. Sensation draws us into ourselves, into our own personal experience. So pratyahara is drawing inward. So how I do this at the beginning of class, I say, draw your attention inward, close down your eyes, and start to feel the breath from the inside of the body. Feel the ribs splay out as you breathe. This is us practicing pratyahara. This is us drawing our awareness inward, which is the limb of pratyahara. Then we have Dharana, which is focused concentration. Every class, I have students choose an intention or a focal point, and I recommend coming back to that focal point over and over and over again. When we bring our mind back to that center point, this is us practicing Dharana, focus concentration. So we can use our physical self as the focus concentration, and we can focus on keeping the core engaged or keeping the front foot straight forward, lying stacked over the ankle. We can have it be our glutes, we can have it be our shoulders, we can have it be our chest, we can have it be our breath. That all of those things are physical ways that we can focus our attention or concentration. It can also be an affirmation. I am healthy, I am strong, I am present, I am capable. And all of those are more emotional. Affirmations create emotion. They are affected, or they affect our emotional state. We also can choose a word: gratitude, happiness, presence, calm. Yes, those affect us emotionally, but that's mental focus. So all of those things, creating that intention, allow us to connect and focus our mind. Next, we have Dhyana, which is meditative absorption. So as we are moving breath to movement, as we are in our practice, have you ever done a class and come to the end of class and been like, wow, that didn't even feel like a minute, and it was 30 minutes or 45 minutes or 60 minutes or 75 or 90 minutes? And you are like, wow, that is meditative absorption. It is when we lose the sense of time. When we lose the sense of time. So it isn't when we're just sitting and meditating. It's not that. It is when we are so involved and engrossed in the present moment that time ceases to exist. It's almost like we cease to exist because we are so one with the creative force. It happens to me when I dance, when I build websites, when I paint, sometimes when I play video games, and of course in my yoga practice. that meditative absorption. And what's so interesting about it is that the minute you realize you're there, you're not there anymore, because you become aware of time, and that shifts the mental perspective. So that's what meditative absorption is. And to me, it just happens sometimes when you're in a yoga practice. Sometimes you're able to just totally let go and surrender, and you are completely absorbed in and by the practice, and that is meditative absorption or dhyana. Next, we have samadhi. Now, this is the last one. I'm going to steal a little bit more of your time. Samadhi means bliss or enlightenment. And how I like to describe that is, for me, after a great class, I have this yogi glow. I have this sense about me, this lightness, this clarity. And I feel different about my life, about situations in my life. I have this total, complete trust in the divine. I have total and complete trust in my personal path. And to me, that is samadhi. That is this feeling of lightness, this radiance, this light. When you truly are living through your light, letting your light shine through you, being that spirit, that soul, letting that be the expression that you are to the world outside of you. This to me is samadhi or bliss or enlightenment. And it's not that that is a destination. It's not that, and it's said that this path, this 8-limb path, was created for enlightenment. But I don't see enlightenment as a destination. I see enlightenment as a way of being, as a state of being. And to me, it is having that total trust, that total faith, and total contentment with where you are in your life, with circumstances, with trust, totally trusting the path, doing the work, accepting and feeling the guidance. To me, that is bliss too. I remember when I was in my 10-day silent retreat, my Vipassana, I had this moment where I was so overjoyed by gratitude. I could see my path, my puzzle, all of the pieces fit together so intricately and so perfectly. And to me, that was a moment of samadhi, knowing that my path, my purpose, everything that I had experienced up until that moment, not only it was absolutely necessary for me to be the person that I am meant to be. Every step, every challenge, every struggle, every pain, every heartache, every heartbreak, all of those things were leading me to become, to be the person that I was meant to be. And I am that person now and forever. So totally trusting in the path, the whole spectrum of the human experience. To me, that is bliss, that is samadhi. So those are the 8 limbs. I'm going to say them again. Yama, moral restraints, disciplines, moral vows. Niyama, duties, observances. Asana, posture. Pranayama, breathing techniques or breath awareness. Pratyhara, sense withdrawal, drawing within. Dharana, focus, concentration, setting that intention. Dhyana, meditative absorption or timelessness. And samadhi, bliss, and enlightenment, and just total trust that you are exactly who you were meant to be. And being so grateful and happy to be this version of you, this expression of your spirit and your soul. I hope that this deepened your understanding of yogic philosophy. If you have any questions about any of this, I would love to hear from you. This is my passion. This is my burning fire, to share this information with others in a way that is accessible and applicable to how we are today. The light, the love, the wisdom in me sees, honors, reflects, and encourages the light, the love, the wisdom in you. Namaste. I hope to see you again on your mats very, very soon. And until then, may your light be your guide. Mwah. If you like this, if you feel that someone would benefit, send it to them, share it, save it, favorite it, come back to it. I will see you again.